Today I'm in the rice paddies outside of my house in Kameoka. And so far all of the secrets of things have been about things. That is to say, art objects, scrolls in the tokonoma, ceramics, lacquer, and so on. When people think about Japanese nature, they think of the grand things, the things you see in tourist posters, cherry blossoms, autumn, maples, and of course those are wonderful. But in the traditional Japanese aesthetic, those were secondary. And what really mattered, for example, what you see in the tea ceremony, what you see in classical painting, is grasses, small, humble things that grow by the roadside, wildflowers, rice in the fields. And there's a lot to talk about because these are things that aren't nowadays much talked about. We start in the rice paddies, and way off in the distance you can see the gate of Tenmangu. And along the paths of the rice paddies are growing this wonderful lily, which is called manjushage, or more typically higambana. And higambana, higan, means the other shore, which can also mean, it can mean death, it can mean enlightenment, and hana is flower, and the reason is because this is the equinox. In fact, higan is also the word for the equinox, which we just had a few days ago. And these flowers bloom only for about a week, starting just in this season, and you see them, when you see the higambana, it means they're soon going to harvest the rice. And here you can see rice paddies that were harvested just about a week ago. After they are cut, they actually start sprouting a little bit again. These are something you'll see all over Japan, not only in Kameoka, of course. When you see higambana, it means the higan, the equinox, has come, and we're now shifting from summer into fall. Well, the rain has come. We've now found not only higambana, but also cosmos flowers. And cosmos flowers are not actually native to Japan. They were brought, I've heard, from Germany. Here you can see the gate of Tenmangu more clearly. And here are more cosmos. But the Japanese have taken to it with a vengeance. It's one of the most popular flowers that you will see growing everywhere in this country. And I think it's because it fits very nicely that tradition of cute, delicate things that grow by the wayside, that have the look of wild grass. In fact, there's a term, akiksa, which means the grasses of autumn, which often featured in screens and scrolls. And here we're looking at a kind of akiksa in the form of cosmos, which is perhaps, at this point, the most popular of all Japanese autumn flowers. We've reached the gate of Tenmangu. In a light rain, you can see that the maples are just beginning to change. It's really a little bit too early for that. Now we enter the grounds of the shrine. And when we arrive here, we see quite a range of trees. Just ahead of us, in the distance, is a huge ginkgo tree, still green, which is going to turn bright yellow about 2 months from now. And a plum tree, which is the symbol of Tenmangu. Tenmangu is dedicated to the god of literature and calligraphy, and his mark, his tree, is the plum, which grows with rather exotic branch structure. And it blooms in the early spring before anything else has bloomed, and so therefore was favored very much by Chinese and Japanese painters as a symbol of the coming spring. Another thing you'll see are the pair of maki trees. I don't know what that word is in English, but they're kind of evergreen, and they often grow in pairs, and they often put them in front of genkan, in front of the entrances of old houses, and certainly you'll see them in temples and shrines. And of course, the ultimate akiksa, the one that was classically most favored in scrolls and screens, and that's hagi, which has the rather unpoetic sounding name in English of bush clover. These things seem to be very annual or seasonal. They vary every year. This year we've had maybe the most spectacular hagi we've ever had at Tenmangu. Now we're at the entrance of the house, but we're looking at rice. I actually grow a little bit of rice behind the house in some old hibachi pots, and I just harvested this rice about 3 days ago. They're at the genkan to welcome guests. And now we head around the back of the house. Looks like the rain is getting a little bit heavier. Here's our old, really ancient cherry tree. And behind us is the river and a little waterfall. And from here, you can see the house itself across the moss. In the back of the house, there's a truly remarkable variety of plants that were growing here naturally. I didn't plant any of these. They were all here at the house when I discovered it. This is nandina, nanten in Japanese. It's too early still. These berries will be a brilliant red color, and that's also a favorite theme in Japanese classical painting. As we walk along here, we start to see a big persimmon tree, kaki persimmon. And kaki are the most beautiful and painterly of all leaves. At this season, I go outside and I pick them up and I collect them. Each one looks like somebody dropped pink and red and orange and green onto a palette. Brilliant red colors, incredible oranges. There's nothing in this world like kaki leaves, and they're just starting to fall now. The kaki fruit, which is also a bright orange, only really matures at the very end of fall. So what happens is all the leaves in the garden, all the leaves everywhere have fallen, and what's left are these bright orange fruit. So just as the plum comes early and symbolize spring, the kaki symbolize autumn. We've got what they call a dwarf maple. And let's focus a little bit on these leaves, because one of the things about Japanese trees and plants in general is the incredible delicacy of the structure of the leaves and petals. And when you think, for example, of Canadian maples, which are quite grand, heraldic sort of form, and these are very feathery, jungly. And one of my favorite of all Japanese things, the tokusa. Now this grows year-round. This long, straight, pointy sort of grass with a unique kind of jointed structure. And finally, we get to my pots of old hibachis, where I've been planting lotuses and other water plants, which includes rice. So these empty pots here where I was growing the rice, and I've just harvested them. But the thing about lotuses is, again, people think about the lotus flowers as being the wonder of a lotus, and of course it is, but it's also these fantastic leaves. And at this season, they start to form grotesque, incredible, sculpturesque shapes. Ito Jakuchu actually did a painting of broken down old lotus leaves at the end of summer where he really made them look almost like aliens come to Earth. Well, the rain is getting a little intense, and we've even got a bit of thunder, so I should probably stop here. But this is what we do in Kameoka on a rainy day. If you like what you've seen, please press like and please subscribe to Secrets of Things.